you so much for tuning in. Sorry that we could not meet tonight due to the weather, but I am sure that you are having a blast right at home and that you are staying warm. In case you don't know me, my name's Diana, and I've been part of the student team for about 2 years now, and I absolutely love everything about it. So last week, Alan ended our series, Vibes, where we learned how to process our feelings and how we could go to God and be able to just tell him how we feel and process them with him, and we don't have to face all these feelings alone. So tonight we will be starting a new series called Do Something. And for the next four weeks, you will get to hear from our special guest speakers, from some of your small group leaders, and from other pastors here on staff. So I recommend that you don't miss any of them. So, have you ever noticed that there is one certain topic in this life that just causes just huge arguments? And no, I'm not talking about politics or religion. I'm talking about superhero movies. I mean, you're either a DC fan or you're a Marvel fan, and you will defend your team or your preference with everything that you have. I mean, I'm talking about huge arguments. You will fight to determine that your team or your favorite superhero is the best, and vice versa. And then I started thinking, well, why are superhero movies such a big hit with just about anyone? I mean, everyone loves superhero movies. They're the biggest money-making industry out there with movies. They are the most popular. Everyone just loves a good superhero movie. But I was wondering, but why? And it's maybe because we love a good hero. We love them because of what they do. I mean, they solve problems, they fight off the bad guys, they are brave, and they are ready to fight for what they believe is right. So they basically see something wrong anywhere around the world, and they show up and fight the bad guys and fight for what they believe is right in the most epic way ever. So there are many times in our lives where we are wanting someone to show up, to kind of help us make things better, to solve our own problems, or to simply do something. So during the next couple of weeks, we are going to talk about things in the world that aren't quite right, things that seem a little bit unfair, things that we can call unjust, and we're going to be talking about injustice. Now, when I say the word injustice, a lot of things come to mind. For some of us, it's a lot of painful things, and we come in with a heavy heart. So I'm sure that we all know what justice means, and it simply means when things are right, when they are fair, or when they're equal. And injustice simply is the complete opposite of that. Things that are not fair, things that are not right, things that are not equal. So we have all seen injustice in our lives one way or another, sometimes big or small. Big things like human trafficking, global poverty, world hunger. Maybe it's not something global, maybe it's something local or in your community. Maybe you have personally experienced injustice and it brings a lot of pain to you. For me, I remember being in grade school, I think maybe 4th grade, and I had a best friend, let's call her Rachel. Rachel and I did everything together. We would wear matching outfits, we would have play dates, we would have lunch together, and we were just the bestest of friends. And I remember one day in math class, she turned around and asked me, "Hey Diana, what are you?" And I looked at Rachel and I said, "Well, what do you mean, what am I? I'm Diana, and I'm a girl, I'm like you." And then she went on and said, "Well, no, you don't look like me. You actually don't look like anyone in this classroom." And then I realized that she was right. I didn't. I looked different. And I didn't realize that she was being unjust towards me, where she even ended our friendship shortly right after she had made that comment, and it brought a lot of pain to me. And we have all seen many different things like that. But here's the thing about this generation. Here's the thing about Gen Z. You guys are the most outspoken group of people that I've ever met. You guys will see injustice and stand up for it and speak it out. And that's what I love about you guys. So we all know that injustice exists in one way or another. That's not the question, because we know it's real and we know it exists today. The real question is, why doesn't someone do something? I mean, whose job is it to fight for justice? What does that even look like? Who is responsible to stand for what is just? Who is it? And like I mentioned before, when we think of injustice, a lot of us tonight, it brings a lot of pain. It brings a lot of heaviness into our hearts. But for some of us, we haven't experienced it ourselves. We have seen it through other people's experiences. And we begin to question things like, why are some of the students that are getting in trouble when they shouldn't are? Or vice versa. Why do some people think it's okay to make sexist, racist, or ableist jokes? They're not funny, so why continue doing them? Why does that kid in my school keep getting bullied and no one cares enough to do something about it? Why do some of our friends get to go home to an unsafe place while others get to go to a safe place? That's not just. Why do some of the kids in our community only eat at school and not have meals at home? Why do some of our friends have 3 meals a day while others barely have 1? That's injustice. And I think that sometimes we don't do anything about injustice because we don't get close enough to see what's really happening and asking these hard questions. But here's the good news. We aren't the first ones to have this problem. Jesus made it a habit of pointing out things that people had not seen before. Jesus uses these stories that he calls parable with real-life examples to reveal a bigger truth. In today's story, we're going to be talking about a sheep and a goat, and the sheep is representing what is just, what is the good guy, what is the right side, and the goat is the unrighteousness, the bad guy, what's not right, the wrong side. And it goes like this, and it's Matthew 25 verses 41 through 46. Then he will say to those on his left, "Depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes, and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you did not look after me." They will also answer, "Lord, when did we see you hungry, or thirsty, or a stranger, or needing clothes, or sick, or in prison, and did not help you?" He, being Jesus, will reply, "Truly I tell you, whatever you do not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me." Then they will go away to eternal punishment, but the righteous to eternal life. So in this story, Jesus is talking about the righteous and the unrighteous. So he's talking about the good guys and the bad guys. And he responded to the needs of the least of these, and the least of these who Jesus defines as the hungry, the prisoners, the people that are sick, and the strangers. In other words, that people that are hurting the most, the people that get the worst treatments, the people that need the most help. And now you might be thinking, well, that's very extreme. Why is Jesus so angry that no one gave him water? But I mean, listen to what the goat said and what they questioned. "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty, or a stranger, or needing clothes, or sick or in prison and did not help you. See, Jesus hadn't physically been hungry or thirsty or in prison, but he wanted to make a point to them. He said, not only did you do nothing about the injustice that was going on around you, but you didn't even see it. You were so busy with your own life that you didn't see the injustice that was going on around you. And that is the point that Jesus wanted to make in this story, in this parable that he shares with us. And Jesus wants to let us know that his people are people who see and act when it comes to injustice. But before we do anything about injustice, we have to be able to see it. And that may be a little bit difficult at times, but here are 3 ways that we can begin as a student ministry to see injustice together. The first one is get close enough to see. I know that doesn't come natural for some of us to go sit with people that don't look like us, or that don't like the same things that we do, or are not in the same group that we are in. I know that's sometimes a little awkward and uncomfortable, but it's time to begin to do that. It's time to begin to start putting ourselves in situations that we wouldn't, or talk to people that we wouldn't talk to on a normal daily basis. And it's okay to do that. Or maybe it is time to start watching films and movies about injustice. Maybe do a little research about your community and get to learn about what's going on around you and not just in your own circle. Secondly, be curious enough to listen. The quickest way to see injustice is to listen to the people experiencing it. And don't just listen to listen, but listen to learn. Put yourself in their shoes. Experience it with them. And let me tell you, that's uncomfortable. And that can be very hard to do. But it's also hard for them to share with you about the injustice that they have personally experienced. And though it's uncomfortable, it's the good kind of uncomfortable that we need to start getting comfortable with doing. Start listening. Be curious. And thirdly, be courageous enough to name it. That means if it is wrong, you call it for what it is, wrong. If it's unfair, call it that. Even when we see injustice in us or around us, let's be courageous enough to call it out. Call it for what it is. It's injustice. And I know that is awkward and it's uncomfortable, but it's important because once we name injustice, we also feel ownership and the responsibility to do something about it. And I believe that we could do it. So now a lot about following Jesus is learning to think and live in ways that are not so natural to us. But that's one thing that I love about this generation. It's that so many of you guys care about injustice. And I believe that this group is a group that's going to be able to change history, to make history happen. That we will be the group that will stand up for injustice whenever we see it. So now for the next couple of weeks, we're going to learn on how we can do that, how we can stand up for injustice, how we can understand that we're not alone in this. But in order to begin there, we have to be able to see injustice. And now, unfortunately, we're not able to go into our community groups right after this video, but I encourage you to text your small group leader, text your group, ask them questions. Begin to just be curious about what other injustice people have experienced or anything like that. Or if you have any questions, just ask us. And we'll love to answer. We'll love to figure out some of these answers together with you, since we don't always have the answers. Guys, that is what I have for you guys tonight, and I hope to see you next week as we continue this new series, Do Something. Bye.